What's up, comrades? Welcome back to the Vanguard live show. Zach and I are happy to be back. Zach is back in Kansas City, back in the studio, so that's cool. Yeah, we got a great show for you guys today.
Yeah, super stoked to be back in the studio, back chatting with you, Gavin, and getting engaged with the chat a little bit. It's always a little bit weird recording when you're out of town. Obviously, we still had a dope interview with Kyle Kalinske. If you guys haven't checked that out, you probably have, but if you haven't, go check it out. It was really fun and lively, and obviously, a guest that we've been hunting down for a long time, so we had a lot of good shit to chat about. But yeah, have a fat stream today. Also, I'm in my bartending clothes and I just got a haircut, so I want to apologize to everybody because I look like I'm about to go knock doors for Pete Buttigieg.
You look like a proud boy, Zach. Just kidding. Where's your tiki torch? Anyway, big shout out to the Patreon community. Thanks so much to everyone that supports the show on Patreon. If you're interested in joining our Patreon community, then you can find the link in the description. It's going to be patreon.com/the Vanguard channel. And we do like to start and end all of our live streams with a big fat shout out to the Patreon community because we would not be able to do the show without you guys. Your support makes this program 100% possible. And Zach and I have some cool stuff coming your way, comrades. We got some really cool documentary content that we're in the production stages of now. So stay tuned for some really exciting stuff. Zach and I finally hitting the streets, coming soon. Super, super excited. So, as we've always said, this channel is still just getting started, even though we're a couple years old now. There's a lot of cool shit coming your guys' way that we're really, really psyched about. But in the meantime, as I said, we have a hell of a show for you guys today. A lot of really, really good stuff to go over. A really interesting debate on the Hill that happened yesterday on Rising. Also, a really interesting debate between Cenk and Anna that I'm excited to cover on TYT that kind of went off the rails, surprisingly. So I'm excited to talk about that as well as a few other kind of quick and fun topics as well. Is there anything in specific you wanted to get started with today, Zach?
Let's lull everybody back in. Let's get everybody's feet wet with a quick cringer. Let's play one of those. We had a couple of quick clips that I just want to get everybody's reaction to, just in case you were unplugged, untuned, forgetting what kind of political environment that we still live in on this country. So we have one clip for you guys that I think just perfectly encapsulates the Republican Party right now and their position on gun control. And then we have another one that I just think could not better represent the Democratic Party. So, Gavin, I'll let you choose. I know you know which clips I'm talking about. I'll let you know. Do we want to roast the Republicans or the Democrats first?
Oh, God. These are both some of my favorite clips of the week. Let's start with Kamala Harris. Who doesn't love some good Kamala cringe? And that's exactly what this is. Once again, delivering a fat and healthy helping of word salad, of alphabet soup. She literally can't make a coherent sentence or thought. She cannot string together the words necessary in order to say or make a coherent sentence. It's really crazy, guys. Seemingly, it just gets worse with Kamala Harris to the point that I'm getting more and more convinced that she will just abandon her political ambitions after her tenure as vice president. Because how much humiliation can one person take? I mean, how much just absolute humiliation can one person handle? Putting her foot in her mouth over and over again, completely failing at the very basic level of communication necessary to be an effective politician. Let's take a listen to this. Some recent statements made by Kamala Harris that I'm sure you'll find very inspiring.
We got to take this stuff seriously as you are, because you have been forced to have to take it seriously. The whole nation should understand and have a level of empathy to understand that this can happen anywhere, in any peace-loving community, and we should stand together and speak out about why it's got to stop.
Madam Vice President?
I can't believe. Okay, so for people who, I mean, yeah. So obviously she's responding to another, mass shooting, right? There was multiple shootings that occurred on the 4th of July weekend. Multiple actually on the 4th of July as well. And the fact that the Democrats have absolutely no opposition to this, no messaging for why this is bad. Like, you literally just have no word. I have no words to even respond to this, right? Because they've just continued for weeks and weeks and weeks to send this woman out here to say absolutely nothing, to go out and give these 90-second blurbs where They're like, yeah, just kill time out there. Use every single tactic that you've ever had to just stump without saying anything. It is like the most empty, vapid, just like completely. You don't even have any words for it. It's just she's up there just saying things, and she thinks that it's fine because she's saying it in this like or this like voice of a diplomat or something. I don't fucking know. It's so cringy.
Yeah, super cringy. Again, just complete inability to coherently communicate any sort of idea, let alone vision or confidence, as far as your ability to properly run this country. But what's extra funny about this is she's saying, oh, we have to take this stuff seriously as we can because we've been forced to take this seriously. And it's like, yeah, we agree. So why aren't you taking it more fucking seriously? Like, the whole public is out here like, please do something. Please do a goddamn thing to stop these mass shootings. And she's like, we got to take this seriously, guys. And people are like, yeah, please do. Please be my fucking guest. Please do take it seriously, Kamala and Joe. We would love that. I think people would actually reward that. But I guess that's not what we're going to get. We're just going to get more lectures from the freaking garbled spaghetti alphabet soup monster, which is Kamala Harris. So yeah, total insanity. It truly does blow my mind just how often this happens. It's really crazy stuff, guys. But there is another clip that Zach referenced, which is also pretty fucking hysterical, coming from the other side of the aisle too.
Yeah, 100%. Really quickly before we move on, I just want to point out to everybody that the reason that they keep doing this with Kamala Harris is because we don't have a president that can competently say anything either. So the bench is so thin for the Democrats right now that they can't have a president go out and respond to this because Joe Biden, I mean, he can't even remember where he is, right? He put a medal on a man backwards the other day. Did you see that shit, Gavin? He like puts the medal facing him because he's standing behind it. I mean, the dude, he doesn't know where he is half the time. So they sent Kamala Harris out there. They're number 2 in charge. Okay, the VP, which is supposed to just be a figurehead that's good at talking, right? Like that's good at doing this shit. That's affable and can deal with this and is slick. And honestly, that's something that Joe Biden used to be pretty decent at. Like I was never a fan of Joe Biden's policy, really, at all. I guess the one, if I was going to give him one ounce of credit, is that like he never really wanted to like expand the war in Afghanistan, but he did anyway under Obama. So it's just like you can't really agree with the guy on much, but he was really good at obfuscating during the Obama years. He was really good at taking friendly pictures of making everybody think that he was this like wholesome guy that was there to hold it down and that the White House was this like lovely place to be and like it was all rainbow and sunshine. And that was the job of the vice president, which is what makes it a little more stark to me that his own vice president is so fucking bad at that. But anyway, we can move on to the next clip because it's equally maybe it's probably more unhinged. It's way more unhinged.
Yeah, as far as the actual substance, it is unfortunately way more unhinged. Let's pull this one up, guys. So you saw the Democrat response to mass shooting violence. Let's take a listen to the Republican response to mass gun violence. Here we go.
From Arizona is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Representative Jordan. I rise in opposition to H.R. 2377. I have 5 grandchildren. I would do anything to protect my 5 grandchildren, including, as a last resort, shooting them if I had to protect the lives of my grandchildren. Democrat bills, as a last resort, anything to protect 77. I have 5 grandchildren. I would do anything to protect my 5 grandchildren, including, as a last resort, shooting them if I had to protect the lives of my grandchildren.
How would that protect their lives to shoot them? I literally don't even understand what she's trying to say here.
I know. I also struggle to follow this line of logic that, Gavin, it's funny because the other day, Gavin and I were having a relatively lively debate about home invasions. And, we were talking about if there's a gun in the house, whether or not you're more or less likely to die. Apparently, we didn't discuss the third option, which is shooting all of your grandchildren and playing dead. Apparently, that's what you use your fucking gun for in the state of Arizona. If you're Representative Debbie Lesko, you love your grandchildren. So it reminds me of like those unhinged people that would like drown. Like, I mean, never mind. But anyway.
Yeah, totally unhinged stuff. It kind of reminds me of that terrible line from the last Star Wars movie where they're like, Rey's parents sold her to protect her. And people are like, how does selling your child in any way protect it? It's like, I will protect my grandchildren even if I have to kill them. So fucking funny. So funny. I genuinely don't know if that was like, if she slipped up and just accidentally said that, or if that's what she meant to said or meant to say. Either way, fucking hilarious.
I would imagine if I'm trying desperately to give her the benefit of the doubt, which I don't want to, I think what she maybe meant to say was that like she would shoot somebody that like came to hurt them. But that's not what she says at all. She literally says, including shooting them. Like, let's play this one more time. We are not misinterpreting what this woman is saying.
And I have 5 grandchildren. I would do anything to protect my 5 grandchildren, including as a last resort, shooting them.
No,
If I
this is
had to
that's
protect-
definitely what she meant. She literally said, including as a last resort. What the fuck do you mean? Like, what? Like, she's literally, I think, sacrificing them maybe to save herself. She loves them a lot, but she's just gonna leave a bunch of dead. Like, I'll do this to my own grandchildren. What do you think I'll do to you, guy? I think she's just gonna leave them as like totems. I don't know.
Yeah, she looks kind of like the wife of that one St. Louis asshole with his who came out with a gun to threaten the BLM protesters. Mark McCluskey. Yeah, she looks like his wife with the mustard stain on her short shirt and the Hamburglar outfit and the fucking, gun. That's basically the same kind of, person we're talking about, just a total Karen, ready to exterminate all 5 of her grandchildren if it means saving them.
What would it mean saving them though? That's what I still struggle to figure out. I have no idea how that actually leads to anything productive. But this is the current state of the Republican Party. It really is. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. Damn, looks like our notifications are blowing up. Might have stirred the pot this morning. Who knows what happened there? But thank you so much, Christina, by the way, for the $4.99. Maybe this will finally make the K-High followers shut up, in reference to the previous clip we played of Kamala Harris' latest helping of word salad alphabet soup. Yeah, maybe, but I kind of doubt it, Christina. I mean, this is only the latest in a long, long line of fuck ups. I can't imagine still defending Kamala Harris to this day. But again, I think they're pretty much at this point just committed to the bit no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, look, you have to remember that for so many people, and this is obviously on the left and true in some cases, basically any time you get like a group of individuals together, they're going to get like a pack mentality about something. It's going to become our team. This is my squad. In this case, a hive, right? So you're just going to start like pushing away any information that does it, like, oh, that was deceptively edited, oh, her aide screwed her over, oh, she was put in a weird spot, Joe Biden didn't let her pass any, like, blah 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 blah, deflection, and then just like whenever she says something that's like completely like empty but like sounds more powerful, they'll be like, this is our queen, like she'll be like, we need to have healthcare in this country for everybody, and then they'll be like, yes, we need healthcare for the people. That's just what people do for their favorite politicians a lot of the time. Most people aren't going to be critical of politicians that they like, and then the people that are typically like critical across the board, you find much less of a willingness to give any kind of praise. So it's just like, oftentimes there's not a lot of you're either like a full bore defender of a politician, or mostly you're just concerned with their fuck ups, is typically the recipe.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Do you want to move on to this debate on the Hill?
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be.
This is an interesting one, and interesting new developments over at the Hills Rising. It seems like they've hired Olayemi to be a new co-host on Rising. She's super dope, really big fan of her commentary. And they recently had a bit of a debate over this whole issue of dead naming, specifically as it relates to actor Elliot Page, who of course, came out as a trans man a couple years ago. We'll play the full clip, but just to start here, wanted to give you a brief taste of this beef going down, specifically between Olayemi and Kim Iverson, who of course is also on Rising. Olayemi posts a clip here from the debate, which we're about to play in its entirety, says, "Do not call Elliot Page or any other trans person by their dead names. It doesn't cost us anything to simply respect people's personhoods and call them the name they tell us to." Again, with the clip here, won't play it because we're about to react to the full debate, so stick around. Anyway, Kim Iverson responds and says, "The point is whether or not you're allowed to say certain things. You can call Muhammad Ali Cassius Clay and not be banned from Twitter or lose your job. Why should trans receive special treatment because they choose to change their names versus others who choose to change theirs?" And do you want to get into the epic response from Socialist MMA, aka Nick Cruz, or should we wait till after we see the debate?
You know what, guys, we're gonna build that up to it because I'm so excited to talk about this, and I have a lot to say about this, and I have a lot to say about Kim's disgusting use of an invocation of Muhammad Ali here, because we'll get into all of it later. We'll unpack it later, but there's beef. I thought that Kim and Robbie had absolutely terrible takes on this issue, and I was super stoked to see Olayemi on there. I was not super familiar with her work. I'd been following it vaguely. I think we followed her on Twitter after her Bad Faith appearance, which was based. And if you guys never checked that podcast out, it was awesome. But yeah, super excited to break this down. Super excited to hear some fiery pushback from the left when it comes to this kind of thing on the Hill. So yeah, this was extremely based, and I'm excited to react to it.
Yeah, super, super excited. This is a great exchange. And again, we're going to get back to that Twitter thread in just a second because our friend of the show, Nick, had an awesome response to Kim Iverson that I'm really excited to show you guys. Real quick before we get into this, thank you, Jessica Fox, for the $5. That carrot meant it was better for the grandmother to off her own grandchildren than a complete stranger. I mean, yeah, that as far as I could tell, that is what she meant. I really couldn't decipher any other meaning, but basically, Jessica.
Holy shit, that is what she was saying, Jessica. God damn it, that's crazy. That's unhinged. I honestly never even arrived at that until I saw your comment, but I think that is exactly what she meant. She literally meant that she would rather kill her own grandchildren than let a stranger do it. How do you arrive at that? I would much rather let a stranger kill like any one of my family members than to do it by myself. I don't know about you guys. I'm not doing it. Like, obviously I don't want that to happen, but if you're like you're like, one of these things must happen, you know, this is your, I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm not gonna fucking do it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, anyway, thank you so much for the $5, Jessica. Really appreciate that. And without further ado, let's take a listen here. Interesting debate on the Hill. Changing your parts doesn't make you a woman. Macy Gray canceled over trans comment. Let's take a listen here. Again, really interesting exchange. It's about 16 minutes. I'll bump up the playback just a little bit for you guys. But this is an interesting one. I really enjoyed this exchange, and shout out to Olayemi. I thought she did a great job on here. She's been doing a great job in general on the Hill so far. So looking forward to seeing more from her in the future. But again, without further ado, let's take a look.
Celebrities Macy Gray and Bette Midler are being accused of being transphobic. Gray, who is best known for her hit song I Try, received backlash for a comment she made during an appearance that aired Monday on Fox Nation's Piers Morgan Uncensored after discussing the topic of trans athletes.
And I will say this, and everybody's going to hate me, but as a woman, just because you go change your parts doesn't make you a woman.
Right.
Sorry.
You feel that?
I know that for a fact.
Midler sparked controversy when she tweeted on Monday, "Women of the world, we are being stripped of our rights over our bodies, our lives, and even our name. They don't call us women anymore. They call us birthing people, or menstruators, and even people with vaginas. Don't let them erase you. Every human on earth owes you." Oh, child.
They're going to be in trouble.
I agree with them.
No, I agree with them too, but you can't say these kinds of things in certain progressive circles at all. Look at J.K. Rowling, look at, any number of other perfectly, liberal people on the issues. And then because they don't talk about gender with the new language that's acceptable to a small number of deranged activists, you get yourself in trouble. And it happens time and time
also,
again.
just to break in really quickly, if J.K. Rowling had made maybe one or two off-color comments that people found to be problematic, people probably would have forgiven her and moving on. Let's be honest. The problem is, we're talking about deranged. J.K. Rowling every single day is out here, fighting this culture war against the trans community and espousing these turf talking points over it. Like, that's literally her whole shtick at this point, day after day after day. Follow her on Twitter. You'll know what I'm saying. Again, it's not just some one-off comment. It's like what her whole identity has become at this point. So anyway, you want to talk about deranged? She's the deranged one.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing I wanted to chime in is I absolutely love the like shift in Oliemi's body language as soon as Robbie opens his mouth, because she had that same like physical response that I think a lot of the rest of us did, which was just like, oh, okay, here we go. Let's battle up. Let's get which you love to see. You love to see represented on the Hill.
Yeah. And by the way, thank you so much for the $10, Evil1911. Really appreciate that. I've been noticing a lot of transphobia from normie Democrats lately, anecdotally. Am I the only one noticing it? Well, I think, no, you're not. I think I've been noticing a lot of transphobia and general bigotry towards the LGBT community become normalized on both sides. I mean, I think the right wing specifically has been ginning up this moral panic. But yeah, a lot of lefties have been, not pushing back like they should at all. And in fact, in some cases, bolstering these arguments. In this case, someone like Kim Iverson. But let's take a listen to the rest of this.
The one thing I would also add is I do think there are people who would consistently vote blue that are in their 40s and 50s that would still, honestly, yeah, probably be really susceptible to a lot of these arguments. It's not just like, fringe, like, people. Like there are a lot of people. I think a lot of it is generational. Like we're gonna have this fight again on a generational level. People who are Gen X and older typically just they'll say shit like, oh, I support everybody, but I just don't get this whole thing, and like why do they want me to behave this way and all kinds of shit. Like anyway.
But I didn't know Macy Gray had that view. I guess I didn't know Bette Midler either. And actually, Macy Gray was making the kind of stronger view, right? She was sort of denying the trans category entirely, whereas I guess Bette Midler was just objecting to the way the language is used, which kind of everyone thinks is crazy.
I don't think it's about denying the trans category. I mean, look, I am totally and completely supportive of trans rights, and
I am as well.
So it's not about that. It's that it's a different category. Right. So I could be supportive. I could say, and I have trans friends that I am very I try to be supportive of as best as I can. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they would tell me I'm not but it's trying to be supportive. It's saying, yes, I believe that you should have rights, but you're not a woman in the same way that a biological woman is a woman. There's different experiences that we don't share. I don't know their struggles at all. I mean, besides the conversations I have with those that I've been friends with while they were trying to transition or thinking about coming out and all of that, I understand this. I've heard the stories of the struggles, but I can't actually.
And they haven't had the same struggles you've had.
Exactly. They can hear about it, but they don't know the exact way it is being a woman, being born a woman biologically and having to go through certain things. So they're just different categories, equally needing rights. I think.
I just want to ask everybody, this sounds a lot like a separate but equal argument I might have heard back in the day, but I don't know. Why does that ring a bell?
Also, what's funny about this, she says, oh, well, trans women haven't had the same experiences that I have, therefore they're not women. What she's referring to, in my opinion, is the fact that trans women don't have wombs, they don't give birth, they don't have periods, menstruation, etc. So that's Kim's point, basically. Because they don't menstruate, because they don't give birth, they're not actual women, so we shouldn't have to call them that. But then she goes on to have this massive issue with the terminology of birthing person or person that menstruates, because why? It reduces womanhood down to birthing and menstruation. And that's not what being a woman is, right? But then that's kind of what you're doing when you're separating yourself as a cis woman from trans women by saying, well, they don't fucking menstruate and birth, so they're not women. So who's reducing a woman down to their birthing and menstruating qualities? It's you, Kim.
Oh, 100%. And this happens all the time. And it's a massively, regressive, and it's a super conservative worldview to, understand women as like birthing machines or like, just fodder who menstruate and, pop out babies, right? Like that's not what, womanhood is. Like, I don't think certainly Kim Iverson wouldn't argue that that's what being a woman is, but that's the 100% the framing that's used to exclude trans women from their womanhood. But and a lot of times people will sloppily make those arguments. Their arguments also exclude elderly women from the conversation, right? Elderly women do not menstruate after a certain point in your life. You go through menopause, you no longer have a period, you're no longer capable of having babies, that are those women not like, like, oh, I guess they share her experiences in her mind because they went through that process. But what if you were biologically incapable of menstruation and born a biological woman as they see you? Then do you not share those experiences, and then are you relegated to some kind of like quasi third status as a woman? Or would you say that's ridiculous? This is just a simple matter of biology. Of course your experience still makes you a woman. That's what I would say, and I think that Kim would say that in that instance too. It's this like weird intolerance towards trans people and this need to like exclude them or make them otherized that I just find really like off-putting and honestly just not sound logically.
Maybe there's some people, but I'm not looking, and you're not looking to rob them of any rights. We're wanting to extend rights, but at the same time recognizing that there are different categories.
I simply do not understand the need or investment to exclude them, period. This is just an imaginary oppression. This whole, oh, they're coming for us as women. You're a woman and your womanhood is unchallenged based on whether or not trans women are women too, or whether or not they want to be included or considered when we discuss women. A conversation about, the language.
You can't say the word woman.
We can say the word women. We can say the word. As someone, I don't know about the two of you, but as someone that is firmly in the leftist space with a leftist platform that knows all of the people that you consider crazies and deranged activists and progressives, you see me say women all the time. I talk about abortion. I say women. I say women's issues. We talk about that, and it's not a problem. So this idea that the entire community are just crazies, unhinged, that won't let you say women is not true. Are there some individuals, outliers? Sure, absolutely. But what I think in general is trans people, the trans community does have, they are negatively impacted. They're not recognizing their personhood exposes them to lots of danger. We saw so much violence in the trans community. Specifically, trans Black women are killed at like 4 times the rate of
but not because they're trans.
Actually, that's not true. Actually,
Robbie, they're not being killed because of anti-trans bigotry. They're being killed because they're in sex work and
why? What do you think?
Yeah, they're all just a bunch of degenerates. That's why they're getting killed at higher rates. Yeah, thanks, Robbie. Anyway, to quickly address her other point too, which is that because Kim and Robbie say, oh, well, you can't even say women these days. You can't even say the word women because these crazy lefties have, hijacked the discourse or whatever. Bull fucking shit. As Olayemi said, and I will, share my experiences as well too, as someone who's on the left, who exists in a lot of left spaces. I'm a recent college graduate. I was, not even a year or two ago, getting my degree at college, had a lot of woke peers, had a lot of woke professors. Not a single goddamn time did I ever hear someone use the term birthing person or person that menstruates instead of the word woman. And not once did I hear anyone pushed back upon for using the word women, including from, again, even the wokest peers and the wokest professors that I had at college, and also on Twitter, online, anywhere else that I've ever existed as a lefty. I have never once seen someone called out for using the word women. And frankly, I've heard Kim Iverson and Robbie Suave say the term birthing person more in this clip than I have ever in my entire life outside of this, conversation. So they're creating this boogeyman like the right wing always does. They set up this fucking straw man and act like it's this huge outrage, that it's this big scandalous fucking problem. When in reality, it's all just a bunch of ginned up nonsense. This is not an actual problem facing the fucking society. This is not an actual issue. You're just fear mongering about it and pretending that it is in order to serve your own fucking agenda.
100%. And look, how many protests did we see? Well, one, I would say, do you want to know another reason why nobody on the left has a problem with the fucking term woman? Yeah, we just, if you say you're a woman, I accept that, and guess what? We will call you a woman, and you are a woman. Great, let's move on. Like, what the fuck? Like, why would you do the narrow times that you will hear somebody with our politics say the term birthing people is when we're talking about access to reproductive health care, and then in which case, yeah, I do think anybody that gives birth needs access to that, and yeah, sometimes that does include trans men. Sorry, that breaks your fucking heart for some reason. I don't know what the fuck to tell you. Sometimes that includes non-binary people. And so when we're having a broad discussion about who specifically needs access to these rights, I want to include an umbrella so that fucks like you don't try and exclude trans men who need access to this health care. That's when we specifically use this rhetoric. It is not a war. It is not something that I ever even really think about. And it's not the kind of thing that if you were to say, oh, all women should have access to abortions, and then somebody was like, yes, and we need to make sure that, all people have access to abortions too, that you have to have a fucking meltdown crybaby episode. You just have to say, oh yeah, of course, everybody should have access to abortion, right? Obviously, overwhelmingly, it's women that need access to this healthcare, of course. And that's why the framing of the issue is such as a women's healthcare issue, although, sometimes that does exclude real people who need access to these things. And the other thing that really really fucking gets under my skin. This is like Robbie Schwab's fucking Donald Trump moment. Like they're rapists and they're fucking criminals and all this kind of shit, right? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You clearly know absolutely nothing about this persecuted minority group, right? We're specifically talking about Black trans women. Do you think that there's somehow equality in this country for people who apply for a fucking job as a Black trans woman? No. Do you not understand that there is deny that there is active aggression towards these women, and also the fact that like you somehow think that because you're a fucking sex worker, you're like bringing it on yourself to be killed. What kind of fucked up framing is that? Like, oh, these people sell drugs and they do sex work for a living, therefore it's their own fucking fault that they're getting killed at 4 times. Like, I can't even imagine the kind of brain rot. And then the fact that you have the audacity to say that you don't have any kind of fucking like, bigotry or prejudice towards these people. You just revealed exactly what you fucking thought about all of these people in a disgusting and clear as day way. So honestly, that triggered me. And every time I rehear it, I'm like, man, this is bullshit. You're just trying to deny these people's humanity.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much, Blaine, for the $5 super sticker, by the way. Really, really appreciate that. Let's get on with this, though, because it does get even better. The conversation continues.
Again, we're not getting it.
But it's not, that's still bad. That's still
trans
terrible.
women are exposed to there are lots of trans women that have very much so been killed based on men's anger at realizing what is their own sexual attraction to these women and determining that they're trans. Robbie, if you want me to, I will do us the favor of having a radar on it one day, right? But what I'm saying is, this is a community that is negatively impacted. They are discriminated against, and I do not see how it hurts us. It harms us as women, as biological women, as cis women, to include them in our struggles and to not go out of our way to exclude them, to suggest, oh, how they're not women, and to rob them of this person. But it simply doesn't cost us anything. My woman's status is not affected. Kim's woman's status is not affected. So there's no need for Macy Gray, who no one has heard from other than that song and a terrible rendition of
like that song.
And yes, that it was a long time ago. It was before I was told by Ginger. Besides that song, the As Told by Ginger theme song, and a terrible rendition of the national anthem most recently.
Curious.
No, that you love the song? That's what.
What are your thoughts on Leah Thomas?
Leah Thomas, is that the trans athlete?
Yeah, the swimmer.
I don't have any problem with that. I don't. And I want to say this. I think a lot of the criticisms, especially when you see people who didn't care at all about women's sports, don't care nothing about women's sports in general, even on a professional level, let alone on the school level or these lesser competitions. All of a sudden, they care so much about women's equality when it comes to excluding and speaking negatively about these trans athletes. And a lot of it, I will say this too, I saw a lot of positive support from other girls and women that compete against her and compete in the arena that did not feel the need to go to these exclusionary routes. So I just think a lot of it is rooted in
it's excluding people who have an advantage because of their.
I do myself the service of not pretending like I'm an expert on all things and like I have the language and stuff in front of me right now, but I have seen people that actually are and talk about science and stuff say that is not the case. But what I'm saying is I don't have a problem. And you know why? Because me, like a lot of these people that comment on this, don't care nothing about these sports or anything. What is the motivation between all of the hubbubaloo? I think the motivation is negative. So for me,
I care, and I know a lot of women who care feeling pressured to use the phrase birthing persons or menstruators, which is now something that elite dialogue is adapting. You see it appearing places. You see the ACLU struggling with the even language to describe the people affected by curtailing of abortion rights. Disproportionately LGBT.
I want to say this. Overall, you very much so still seeing women's issues, things like abortion and stuff being discussed as a women's issue. That is the vast majority of people that are still discussing it in that way. But let's pretend I concede to the language pressures, being pressured to use different language, a more inclusive language for the positive impact of others and people in groups that you know are going through a negative experience in the community. That is not oppression. That is not going to kill you. The idea that, oh my God, I have to say this language that might include these other kinds of women. That's just not the worst thing.
Doesn't that go both ways though? Because for the people who are saying you have to call me a woman rather than a trans
because they're
woman?
explaining the same way y'all said earlier. Y'all don't know their struggles in their community. They've explained the way, and they talk about this ad nauseum, the way in which they are negatively impacted by us robbing them of this personhood, or not engaging in this language, or insisting and excluding them, considering them as men, even though they're telling you they're women now. They are negatively impacted in them. So it's not just a feeling and a sentiment. It's different. And what I'm saying is for us.
But I'm saying I think women are feeling that same sentiment.
I don't think
of being deprived of their recognition as having had a unique set of experiences.
And I'm saying that is not a real. I don't think that that rises to the level of what they're going through. I think what the what the cost is for us as cis women, as biological women, what the cost is for us in using that language does not outweigh what is the risk and what are the negative impacts of us not being inclusive. But nonetheless, I maintain that the majority of these issues are still being discussed as women's issues. It is not true that everywhere, you have to use birthing language or birthing whatever,
but it is
menstruators and all these things. It's just not the case.
But that language is increasing in popularity and in usage. I mean, you
And
can't
God
deny
forbid.
that. I've never seen it before in my life. And now the other day when I filled out a medical form, that's what it actually said. In a medical document, it actually asked if I was a menstruating or birthing person. It didn't ask if I was a woman. So I do, and that was a legitimate lab
I've never
medical
seen that, but I don't see
organization.
the problem with our society adapting to be more inclusive. I don't see what is the
So I just have to jump in right here. So this gets down to why I just don't understand why this is the the final straw. It's like, okay, so I go to the doctor's office and she's like, or whatever medical form that she's filling out, and it wants to know like whether or not like my body does this medical thing. Ah, what the fuck? Like if I went to the doctor's office and it asked me on a form, do I menstruate? I would just check no, and I would move on with my fucking life. And like any other reasonable, rational person that's filling out a medical form where it's like, nope, this doesn't happen to my body. Like, do I have like fucking sleep paralysis? No. Like, do I have Crohn's disease? No. Like, whatever the fuck it is you're filling out on this form. Are you allergic to any medication? No. Like, what the fuck? Like, yeah, maybe somebody who is a fucking trans man and needs to have their fucking menstruation checked out. Well, what the fuck? You think they don't have the right to do that, Kim? Is it so fucking persecutory to you to have to check a box when you go to the fucking doctor's office or medical lab or wherever the fuck? You have to be pretty privileged in this country to go because all that shit is expensive as hell anyway. That the fucking massive thorn in your side is that, oh yeah, other people can be treated equally here. Other people can be fucking respected as human beings with decency here, and you have to abide by it. Oh, God forbid. That you're fucking kidding me? It just makes you sound like a fucking conceited asshole that's fucking hates trans people.
Yeah, it's really pretty freaking crazy. Thank you, by the way, Jessica, for the $5. I love you guys are covering this. I'm trans and can't stand this culture war stuff, and I'm pretty upset it's coming so much from the left now. Yeah, I'm pretty upset too, Jessica. Obviously, I have trans friends myself, and I understand that they're just like normal people, just like any other one of us. So it really is crazy to see all this moral panic and fear ginned up over this issue. So yeah, thanks for the super chat. Really appreciate that. Glad you're enjoying the content. And of course, we're always going to stick up for you guys. And thank you also, Bookworm Skates, for the $1.99. The medical form is invalidating my womanhood. LOL. Sorry, Zach, didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, I was gonna add, like, doesn't it just feel like surreal and fucking crazy that you even have to say that though? Like, oh, these fucking people are just like what other fucking instance do you have to do that still? Like, and obviously we're gonna fucking do it, but it's just like, come on, are you so fucking dense in the head that you don't understand what's going on right now? Anyway, thank you, and of course, for the super chat, Jessica and Bookworm Skates. Really appreciate that.
I think a lot of people don't find that language more inclusive. They find that language really.
I think you're seeing, like it's the case,
and almost just like women are nothing, but they're.
That's because you hate trans.
It has never. It has never been the case in life that a marginalized group appears and starts speaking about their issues and advocating for different ways that we could respond to be more inclusive, that you don't see a large pushback. So it's not unsurprising. It's not unsurprising to me.
I don't know why we can't extend the boxes. Like, why can't it be male, female, trans female? Like, like, why does it? I don't understand. We can be inclusive for sure.
But also on the flip side of that, what's the problem with them saying with trans women taking women? What does that do to me or you?
I mean, listen, being somebody who's mixed race, for example, when I fill out race forms, I'm glad that now I see a lot of boxes. I'm no longer stuck with, am I either white or am I either Asian? That's the way it's been my entire life growing up. There was never mixed race as an option. Now there's mixed race as an option. So now I get to
yeah, just like how it used to be, you're either a man or a woman, and now you can have a spectrum of different things. You can be a man, a woman, in between, wherever you personally identify or want to express yourself. That's becoming more societally acceptable, and you're the one pushing back on it.
More than, I get to check either the mixed race box or more than, or they say check 2 if it applies to you. So
But Kim, in that example, you were talking about for you as a biracial person felt like you were being forced to choose this particular box when you would have appreciated having the option of choosing both, having that reflected.
Boxes.
But trans women are not there saying that they would like to be able to just be included in women. They want to be able to text the women box. And I'm saying, how does that harm me or you allowing trans women to do that?
No, it doesn't. And I don't think anybody's arguing that. If you identify as a woman and you want to check the box as woman, fine. The issue is with the language birthing person.
Also, by the way, you know who else would tell you that trans women aren't 100% biologically identical to cis women? You know who would be the first to tell you that? Trans women. You think trans women don't understand the fact that they have biological differences than cis women? Obviously, they fucking do. They're not fucking stupid people. I'm serious. Talk to a trans person. They will be the first to tell you about all the differences and all the, different kind of experiences that come along with identifying as a trans individual. No one is like out here pretending that those differences do not exist. Everyone understands this. You're intentionally straw manning this position.
Yeah, and the lengths that people have to go to in order to just live a regular fucking life as a trans person, right? And the barriers that we put up for people to just present and live comfortably, in their own fucking skin. Like, guys, just for a second, it's 2022. Do we have to do this exercise again? Imagine you woke up tomorrow in the opposite gender than you are today, right? The opposite one, assuming that you're living in the skin of the body that you're happy with, but and then otherwise you would already understand this horrid. But imagine for a second that you are a cisgendered man, and the next morning you wake up as a fucking cisgendered woman. Your whole life would be so fucking different. Everything about it, and you would not like that. You would just not feel like yourself. You would feel like all fucking different. All these kinds of things. You would feel like you were not living your true experience. Like that is the exact life that we would be forcing trans people to live if we did not allow them, and we still put all these barriers in front of them to live even remotely like fucking normal life. And yet what Kim Iverson just can't fucking stand is the fact that, I have to check whether or not I menstruate on a medical form. Like literally that's the, like, fuck all these other problems that we have societally created for this one specific marginalized group who just want to fucking live their lives. Literally just want to fucking live. Okay. And then it's like, this is, and this is how you just, that people don't have respect or any, like, they will constantly say like, I want everybody to be able to like, have whatever, autonomy that they want, but then they will continue to, make weird arguments that just undermine the fact that, like, make it so explicit. Like Robbie was like, I have no problem with trans people. It's just they're all fucking drug traffickers and sex workers, and that's why they're getting killed, and they deserve it, right? Essentially, is what he was saying. But anyway,
yeah, thanks so much, Ryan, for the $4.99. Yeah, totally agree. But let's get back to this clip because it does continue. It does get even better or worse depending on how you look at it.
Menstruating person,
and I'm saying that's not the mainstream. That is not the mainstream reality, and that's not being forced on everybody. It's just not true. Y'all would like to think it's in some scenarios and some you see it, but it is not the majority. It just isn't.
It's not the majority,
we're taking
but
the outliers.
It's a rising sentiment. It's a rising trend for sure.
Well, we have
know what else is a rising sentiment and a rising trend? It's fucking disgusting bigotry and homophobia coming from the right wing and from left wingers like Kim Iverson. That's what's rising. That's the rising sentiment, is your goddamn bigotry.
One other related topic we wanted to get to here. So actor and producer Elliot Page's dead name appeared as a trending topic on Twitter on Tuesday, violating the site's own policy on hateful conduct. So a dead name is the name a trans person used before coming out. So maybe that's a name from the other gender, and it was listed under the site's trending tab. According to Twitter's hateful conduct policy, users are prohibited from targeting others with repeated slurs, tropes, or other content that intends to dehumanize, degrade, or reinforce negative or harmful stereotypes about a protected category. This includes targeted or misgendering or dead naming of transgendered individuals. And this is where it gets kind of insane. Like, I don't even know. I assume everyone watching knows what Elliot Page's name was before. I guess we should not say it because maybe that would violate some policy.
It's a dead name. I mean,
that's
no thing.
Crazy.
Why is it?
I don't understand.
Why?
All right. First of all, I just wanted to say they're talking about this Twitter censorship issue, talking about how, in Robbie's estimation, it's crazy that people got banned on Twitter for dead naming Elliot Page. And, just to be honest, I don't think anyone should be censored. I'm a free speech absolutist. So, no, I actually don't think anyone technically should have been censored from Twitter or any social media platform for basically saying anything, no matter how fucking vile it is. In fact, I advocate for those platforms to be nationalized, so they do have to be regulated in accordance with the First Amendment. You know who doesn't fucking believe that, though? Is libertarian Robbie Soav. Libertarian. Is this guy now advocating that the fucking state steps in and regulate this private company? Twitter, a 100% private company. Libertarian Robbie Swove is now saying that they should not be able to operate in accordance with whatever the hell their own ideology is. So what's your problem, bro? Find a different platform. Let the free market work this out, bro. Why are you advocating for, a corporation to have to operate under whatever rules you see fit to? It's their fucking decision. It's their bottom line they're looking out for. And your anarcho-capitalist values should be right in line with that.
Yeah, well, that's the other big thing. Like, obviously, you and I have argued multiple times that we don't believe in censorship. We don't believe in big tech, over overlords being able to control the dialogue in what is essentially a public square at this point, where much of our conversation is happening. We need a free and liberated internet if we're going to have, free and liberal discourse like the First Amendment guarantees us. I think that you and I are in 100% lockstep with that. But yeah, it is the same people who believe in the system of capitalism, who believe in the free market, who believe in the autonomy of these businesses, who are typically the most up in arms about this specific issue and whatever Twitter decides its terms of use policy is going to be. But it's also hilarious that Jordan Peterson was going to die in the fucking sand about this, and then he deleted his tweet because he can't fucking quit Twitter. Like, none of these people have any.
Same with Dave Rubin.
Yeah.
Same with Dave Rubin.
100%. They just want to be fucking cruel to this random stranger that never did fucking anything to them, but live his life. And unfortunately, a profession that demands you have an extreme public eye on you. So yeah, anyway, we can let this clip run out.
But yeah, again, just keep in mind, these motherfucking libertarians like Robbie, they will always argue against regulation unless they're arguing to regulate Twitter in order to allow them to be more transphobic publicly. That's the only regulation they support, hilariously. But let's keep going because this is pretty good.
Why is that any creation? And people change their name. Call me this. Call me this. I prefer to be called.
Right, but to not even be allowed to acknowledge that you used to have a different name.
What do you need to be able to acknowledge that for? How are you suffering? Where's your harm? Where's your passion?
Also, sorry to cut in one more time, but I want to quickly share my screen so you guys know what Jordan Peterson got banned for, because it was not just acknowledging the reality of who Elliot Page used to be. I genuinely do not think that Jordan Peterson would have been banned had he said, the actor formerly known as Ellen Page or Elliot Page, who some people might know used to be Ellen Page. I don't think he would have got banned for that. I straight up do not think, if you just acknowledge that, this person at one point identified as this other person, I don't think that would have been banned off Twitter. What Jordan Peterson actually did say that got him banned was, first of all, he dead named and said, and Ellen Page just had her breasts removed by a criminal physician. All right. Is that the same thing as just acknowledging who they used to be? Because that's what Kim and Robbie want you to believe. They want you to believe that Jordan Peterson just simply acknowledged the reality that Elliot Page used to be or used to identify as a woman, and now he no longer does. That's what he wants you to think Jordan Peterson was banned for. In reality, this is the transphobic filth that Jordan Peterson and then Dave Rubin.
Yeah, Gavin jumped off the stream, but 100%. Look, he'll be back in 1 second, but this is 100% true. And the reason why they can't just present this as it is, and they choose not to present this as it is because it would be so unpopular, because it's obviously just cruel and hateful, right? There's no way to disguise it as like a free speech crusade, the way they always constantly decide, it's always a free speech crusade with the right? How do they fucking control our elections, guys? They call it a free speech issue. How do how do they buy off literally every power in government? They call it a free speech issue. And now, in order to subjugate this minority group, they're calling it a free speech issue. And they'll continue to do that. They called the fucking gay marriage a freedom of religion issue. It was not. It was a prejudicial issue. And that's what the Supreme Court at one time sanely ruled it was. But anyway, we can continue.
Right. And again, a lot of trans people, I don't think they have an issue with you acknowledging the fact that they are trans, that they transitioned and they used to identify as something else that they do now. I don't think most people actually have an issue with that. I don't think Jordan Peterson would have been banned if he had simply acknowledged that. The problem is that he actually did engage in what is very clearly and obviously transphobia, if not just straight up hate speech. Again, not only dead naming Elliot Page, but also saying that his gender affirming surgery was criminal. So yeah, clearly that's fucking transphobic as shit. Obviously, stop strawmanning this issue. Again, I don't think they would have been banned had they just simply acknowledged the reality of Elliot Page's former name or identity. And again, I don't frankly think that anyone should have been banned on Twitter at all. I don't advocate for anyone's censorship pretty much under any circumstance. But that being said, again, you're a libertarian, Robbie, and Twitter has made it pretty clear what their TOS is. You know, if they said, you know, you're not allowed to post racial slurs, and then someone gets on Twitter and starts spamming the N-word, and then they get banned, are you going to go out there and be like, this guy's a martyr for free speech? Because knowing what the TOS was, he went out there and, you know, jumped off the cliff anyway. Obviously not. That would be fucking ridiculous. So why is it any different now?
And also, I would just like to add that, you know, Jordan Peterson is 100% a free market capitalist. He has argued for it time and time and again, and he's reaping what he sowed. Even though Gavin and I are principally opposed to censorship, again, he's argued for the fact that these companies should be able to regulate themselves, so to speak.
Person lived as a different person for a long time, decades, and so to say that suddenly we all have to pretend like those decades didn't exist and that person wasn't that person for those decades.
You're not forced to pretend that. You just can't.
I understand.
You just can't say it out loud?
No, you can talk.
Right.
Why are we pretending like that is what's happening here? It's very simple.
This person,
there's a trans man now, Elliot Page. That is their name. That is the name that they go by.
I said him and I said Elliot Page.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Their dead name is their dead name. They don't go by that anymore. They find it dehumanizing or diminishing to their personhood to be called that. And that is what it is. It's not uncommon. People change their names all the time, and we use the different names that they go by.
Right, but then if somebody goes, well, who's that? I go, oh, they used to be X. I would fill them in. And you can't do that on social media.
Is that what they got banned for, Robbie? Is that what they got banned for? No, it is fucking not. Jordan Peterson did not say Elliot Page was once known as Ellen Page. No, that is not what he got banned for. He got banned for literal fucking outrageous and undeniable transphobia.
Which is why he continues to obfuscate from the reality of what happens, by the way. This is not coincidental.
Because of this policy.
Did you get banned from calling Prince even after he changed his name to a symbol?
That's the same. We are comparing apples and vegetables because this is a trans person. We've explained this. The dead name reflects a person, an identity they do not recognize. They find it psychologically harmful to be seen in that way. They've moved on.
I mean, maybe he felt like being called Prince was.
I mean, I've explained it.
All right, this is such horseshit, and honestly, I get why she's getting pissed off here because you can't have a good faith conversation with that. There is not the same thing as like somebody's personal identity and like the fact that like, oh, he goes by Eminem now, bro. You can't call him Marshall Mathers. Sorry, like there's a difference between somebody's like fucking stage name, right, and their name that they perform music under, right. And their birth name, which they still legally use for literally fucking everything. And the case of Prince was this is actually a corporate criticism. He had to legally change his name for fucking legal reasons. He changed his name into a symbol for it wasn't about his personhood. It wasn't about it was completely unrelated to that. It was actually about the record business, all kinds of shit like that.
Also, the Prince example is pretty funny because I noticed you referred to him as Prince, not his dead name. Everyone does. So if it's so easy for you in that instance to call him his actual, or what are you saying?
Oh no, so he changed his name from Prince to a symbol. So he no longer had a name. His name was the symbol, which is why Kim Iverson tried to use it as a gotcha because there's no name to call him now. He was no longer performing. He was the artist formerly known as Prince, which now had the name of a symbol. It was because, again, it was a convoluted record label lawsuit and all kinds of shit like that I'm not an expert on. But
I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know anything about that. Anyway, let's move on.
Listen, go ahead. Go forth smartly. Go.
I think it's a really weird, especially for a famous person, a person of some notable public significance to be formally disallowed from talking about some public and no, we're not
You're
saying
not
this
being
is some
disallowed from
embarrassing
talking
secret
about
that we're
your
trying to
past.
spare them from. I mean, no, this is a public. This person was in movies.
You are
was
not.
was under this name.
It's
under
obviously
this gender
very
identity.
let's not listen. For the dad name to trend, for something to trend, people have to be using it massively. It has to be being discussed. Let's not act like we don't know where that comes from. If we know that this is now a trans person, they go by Elliot Page, and there are a large amount of people calling them by their dad name, so much so that it trends. There is a deliberacy in there meant to offend this person because you know they do not go by that anymore. I don't know what is this big.
Well, and if anyone was continuing to use it and not using the new name just to be, provocative or mean-spirited, right? I mean, I guess I would use the name the person wants to use now, and I would recognize their gender identity now. But I do not think we should be for a public person, for someone who is well known to the people, for sake of clarity or for sake of biography.
Bro, you can do whatever you want. You can go out on the main street square and shout the dead name of Elliot Page as loud as you want. You could stand there all day and do that, and you're not going to get arrested. No one's going to hurt you. You can do whatever the fuck you want, bro. All that happened was that Twitter enforced their TOS, which is something you pretend to care about as a free market libertarian. Again, there has been no infringement on your freedom. You can go outside right now and scream it from the top of your fucking lungs. No one will do a goddamn thing. What you're dealing with right now are the consequences of a private company enforcing their terms of service. And by the way, not even against everyone that was saying Elliot Page's dead name. They banned people for being blatantly fucking transphobic, which, by the way, again, I'll say it for the 100th time, I'm not even in favor of. I'm a complete free speech absolutist, but you're the motherfucker who's a libertarian. You're the motherfucker who pretends to care about corporations and private companies' rights to enforce their policies however they want. You're not you're not for nationalizing these companies and regulating them in accordance with the First Amendment like I am. You're the goddamn one that sticks up for their right to do this stuff. So, if you want to join the socialist team and start advocating for the policies that would actually prevent censorship, that's fine with me. But as of now, you're basically just betraying your very own stated principles as a free market libertarian.
Yep.
Acknowledge that they used to have a different name.
You can acknowledge,
crazy to me to say that we're
but you
not
see
allowed
how,
to do
but do you
that.
see how we sat here and we had this whole discussion. We acknowledged that they used to have a different name. We acknowledged that they had this life before that, but we never called them the name.
Well, no, it's tiptoeing around.
My point is, it's that simple. You're not allowed. We had the whole conversation. Yes. What is the problem with that? You're not allowed to call somebody by a name that they don't go by anymore. Big deal.
No, it's not
crazy.
allowed. We shouldn't be not allowed to say what a person was.
You are allowed. You can go outside and say it as much as you want. It's just on Twitter where they're enforcing their TOS, you fucking idiot. Jesus Christ. People pretend that the left has this victim complex. People on the left are always bitching about microaggressions and all of these, the fucking oppression Olympics and all this stuff. And then the minute one of these goddamn conservative fucking losers gets banned on Twitter, it's the end of the goddamn world. It's fucking 1984 all over every single goddamn time. I'm so fucking sick of this shit.
God forbid you not be allowed to call somebody by something they don't want to go by anymore because your right to call them what you want to call them.
If Donald Trump decided he just wanted to be called the
that.
greatest of all time, we would just move over to that and be like, well, we got to respect his wishes.
It's not the same.
Gotta respect his wishes.
Y'all continuously y'all are clearly invested in pretending like y'all don't understand the significance.
No, I understand it.
And a dead name. So go ahead. I've already explained it.
All right. Well, we've had this one out. So tomorrow on Rising,
You're muted, Gavin.
Oops. I was saying interesting debate. I'm glad it happened. Even though I strongly disagree with Kim and Robbie, obviously, if you guys can't tell, I'm so glad this exchange happened because clearly this is a conversation that is happening. Clearly this is something that people are working through societally and culturally, even though I don't know why it's so fucking hard to, figure out that trans people exist. Newsflash, they always fucking have. Literally since the fucking beginning of human history, there have been trans people. It's nothing new, but for some reason, people are acting like, oh, this is like they're coming out of the sewers, they're coming out of the fucking woodwork, and all of a sudden there's this mass horde of trans people enclosing in on society. Like, bro, it's really not that fucking hard to figure out to get it through your fucking skull. But that being said, I'm glad this conversation happened anyway. Shout out to Olayemi for holding down the position that she did in a really fierce way, honestly. And again, just to remind everyone, this is the tweet that Jordan Peterson got banned for. Not only did he dead name Elliot Page, he also inferred that his gender affirming surgery was criminal. Is that not obviously transphobic as fuck? Like, that's more than just acknowledging the reality of someone's transition, right?
Oh yeah, and look, that's why I thought it was smart for the discussion to end when it was. It was like, you can go around and around and around and around. Clearly, there was an unwillingness to grapple with the fact that this wasn't about acknowledging the fact that Elliot Page is a trans man who once had a acting career of note where they performed, as a cis woman, right? Okay, everybody knows that happened. That is literally not news. That has been not news for fucking ever. Like, oh, I saw Juno. Oh, I saw Inception, right? Like, I saw Hard Candy, right? I've seen a lot of these fucking movies, right? But it's like this isn't breaking news or anything like that. So the point that Olayemi made that I thought was really salient was the fact that it was like, clearly this was a targeted fucking, effort to, humiliate and dehumanize Elliot. This was done out of spite. This was, and the cover for all of it was that somehow this is a free speech issue. There's always a cover for it. And it's like a wink and a nod. It's like, I love the trans community and want them to have every single right. I just want them to be relegated to over here, and I don't want to fucking deal with them ever, and I don't want to call them anything like that. That's essentially the argument that all of those people are making. And it's like, but we love them. We're our best. It's like, okay, guys, clearly that's not the case here. And also just the unwillingness to grapple with the reality that being called by your fucking name is like the baseline establishment for respectability, like just the baseline for humanity, for decency, literally the bedrock of it. And I'm excited to get into this Twitter exchange that we alluded to earlier because I think we have a lot to say about it. Shout out to Nick Cruz for a base tweet that we're about to read.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's put this back up on screen. We briefly talked about it. So again, Olayemi, who was the one on the left, obviously posts this clip and says, "Do not call Elliot Page or any other trans person by their dead names. It doesn't cost us anything to simply respect people's personhoods and call them the name they tell us to," which, obvious. Kim Iverson, of course, responds, "The point is whether or not you're allowed to say certain things. You can call Muhammad Ali Cassius Clay and not be banned from Twitter or lose your job. Why should trans receive special treatment because they choose to change their name versus other people who choose to change theirs?" And then Kim Iverson was responded to by Socialist MMA, who says Muhammad Ali literally beat the shit out of Ernie Terrell for refusing to call him Muhammad Ali. He famously shouted, "What's my name? What's my name?" while taunting him during the fight. He didn't shake his hand or anything after the fight because he was so offended. You are a clown. Could not have said it better myself. Could not have crafted a better response. I think we have a clip queued up that you wanted to play, Zach.
Yeah, look, I love this response for so many reasons. One, because I think that out of all of the people of the 20th century, maybe ever since he was alive, this man stood for decency. He demanded respect. He stood for all the right causes, and also he was just the personification of masculinity. He was the personification of anything but a triggered liberal, right? One of my favorite quotes from Hunter Thompson is that he talks about the three meanest people he ever met in his life in terms of functional meanness, and he lists the leader of the Hells Angels, Sonny Barger, the president of the United States, Jimmy Carter, and Muhammad Ali, and he was like these are towering figures, and Muhammad Ali, he stood for greatness, and he always demanded respect. So for her to try and evoke his legacy as a way of justifying her disrespect over to trying to justify her, some sort of strange craving to dead name Elliot Page, using one of the greatest figures of the 20th century to demanded respect for all oppressed people, not just the Black community, whom he tremendously stood up for, but oppressed people from all over the world. You're going to try and use him to justify your own bigotry? Get the fuck away from me. That's one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen in my entire life. Taking one of the most heroic figures who stood for love and justice and making him fucking be at your shield for your fucking swill. I can't fucking believe this. And you know what? Just to let everybody know what kind of a titan this guy was, what kind of a fucking force he was, we wanted to play this clip of him beating the shit out of Ernie Terrell. So let's just go ahead and play this one. And I'm going to play a little bit of the intro when he's talking to him, and then I'll play the part where he's beating his ass, asking him, what's my name?
Cassius Clay, yes.
Why do you want to say Cassius Clay when Howard Cosell and everybody is calling you Muhammad Ali? Then why you got to be the one of all people whose color to keep saying Cassius Clay? My name is Muhammad Ali, and you will announce it right there in the center of that ring after the fight if you don't do it now.
And you can watch the whole fight on YouTube. That's just a few clips of it, a few segments of it. It goes to a unanimous decision. Muhammad Ali beat his ass the entire fight, 15 rounds. You can watch it. But that energy, that forced him looking him in the eye and saying, you will announce my name at the end of this fight if you do not do it right fucking now. That energy, dude. Why did he feel so strongly about that? Because it was about the bedrock of his humanity. It was saying, this is a line you will not fucking cross because I am a man and you will treat me like a man the same as you. What the fuck is so hard for people to understand about this?
Yeah, no, it's pretty fucked. And Kim Iverson continued with her bullshit. Frankly, I'll put this up. She got real triggered over the fact that a lot of people called her out, as we just did. Again, after this tweet, she goes on to Pearl Clutch. Some of these comments really showcase the angry, hateful, authoritarian attitude that's pervasive on the left these days. So blind with rage, they can't even understand the debate. Oh, yeah. Because in this instance, it's totally the left wing, which is angry, hateful, and authoritarian. We literally have mainstream talking points on the right wing right now about how even adult trans people should not be legally allowed to do what they want with their bodies. But you want to call the left authoritarian. And of course, you don't have any words. You don't have anything to say about the fact that Dave Rubin and Jordan Peterson and all of these other fucking disgusting bigots are out here being hateful, intentionally dead naming Elliot Page and other trans individuals for their own, I guess, career. I don't know, whatever the hell they're doing it for. You have nothing to say about that. You have nothing to say about the hate coming from the right wing, but it's the left. It's the left that's hateful and authoritarian just for calling those people out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's so... You hate to use the word laughable because this is a very serious issue that is very high stakes for a marginalized community. But the shallowness of that argument, the fact that it is absolutely like it holds no weight at all. It holds no water, excuse me, whatever the fuck the expression is that I'm looking for. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. And it just shows the fact that it illuminates rather the fact, something that we talk about all the time, is that for however much the left feeds into the right's need to like portray them as victims, the right is the real like obsessed. They're the real obsessors with victimhood, right? So they'll pretend that, the lefts are a bunch of babies or whatever that won't stand up for themselves. And sometimes, we validate that by making it really easy for them. I'll take that criticism. But the fact of the matter is they are obsessed. They are literally obsessed with being the persecuted class in this country, even though they have all of the power, literally all of the power. They control the judicial branch, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the only fucking branch of power that matters at this point, because it's the only branch of power that's using an ounce of it, and they're using it in fucking fascist, tyrannical ways. So yeah, I mean, 100%. Shout out to you, Ty, by the way. We'll put your super chat up here in a second, but I wanted to respond to it really quickly while Gavin is running out to the bathroom. Hope that you're doing really well in Tejas and all that. But yeah, look, the transphobia is so rabid and revolting right now, which is what Ty pointed out. We'll get to his super chat in a second. And it's honestly, it's shocking to me. And it's something that I've consistently pointed out that I'm a little let down by myself because, we live, me and Gavin live and record out of Kansas City. It is a little bit of it's a blue hub, but it's mostly neoliberal. Obviously there's progressive action and a lot of stuff that we're proud of here, but by and large it's still very Midwestern as far as the political landscape goes, Kansas City being like the one blue egg, Johnson and Jackson County being like two of the only blue counties in Kansas and Missouri, respectively. That I even through all of this, it's been very recent that I've realized like how far backwards we've moved with the LGBTQ conversation. That that I feel guilty that I thought that we kind of were past this, right? That I just thought everybody was kind of on the same page.
Same, I did too.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw, I gave a quick shout out to our friend Ty Stewart, who sent us a super chat. Basically like talking about like the transphobia being so rabid and revolting right now, and it's just crazy to me that it just seems like it picked up out of nowhere almost, or maybe it didn't pick up out of nowhere. I just was too like in my own lane to see that it was creeping back in again. But yeah, it's a huge problem, and we definitely aren't going to shut the fuck up about it over here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Thank you so much, Ty, by the way, for the $5, and we're glad you enjoyed the segment. It really is rabid. It really is revolting right now. And yeah, the best we can do is honestly just push back. And that's what really disappoints me about all these people on the quote unquote left that aren't pushing back. Like, this is the most obvious moral panic ever. It's very obvious why this is being ginned up, the same way the right wing villainizes any other marginalized community. In 2016, it was Mexicans and immigrants, and now it's gay people and trans people. They always, find some marginalized community to scapegoat and gin up fear and a moral panic over. And now it's, unfortunately, LGBT and trans folks that are the victim of that. And again, it really is disappointing to see people that pretend to be leftists, and not pushing back on it, but in some cases bolstering these arguments, So really, really unfortunate, really disgusting. Thank you, Ty, for the $5. Thank you also, Katrina, for the $5. Really appreciate that. Just call people how they want to be called. Call Elliot, and call women and men should stop telling women what should be concerned about. Yeah, thank you for the super chat, Katrina. Really appreciate that. Yeah, I think all people are asking for is a basic level of respect.
Yeah, it's so obvious.
Absolutely. So thank you for that. Really appreciate it. And thank you, Nima Piazar, for the $5. Muhammad Ali wasn't liberal. He was a socially conservative religious Muslim guy. Yeah, that's exactly the point we're making, Nima. He wasn't some freaking triggered liberal. This was as you said, socially conservative religious Muslim guy who was demanding to have his identity respected, just like how we should, do for everyone else.
100%. Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's move on, though. There is one more segment that I wanted to cover, and that would be a recent debate on the Young Turks. This is a very interesting discussion. I'm excited to hear your reaction to it, Zach. And yeah, I guess without further ado, let's get right into it. It's about these 4th of July LARPers from, I forget which country. I think it's Sweden. I want to say Sweden. But this Poland. Sorry, my bad. I don't know why I said Sweden. You're right. Poland. Anyway, this conversation, this debate goes a little bit off the rails. So that's definitely a little bit spicy. It's interesting to watch Anna and Cenk go at it. But it's also interesting just as far as the substance goes. I'm really genuinely interested to get your take on this one, Zach, as far as where you come down on the argument. Because again, I thought this was a fascinating discussion.
A group of Polish live-action role players, or LARPers, has held a not-so-flattering mirror up to America by role-playing Ohioans at a 4th of July celebration. Now, this first went viral, by the way, back in May when the 4th of July LARP crew's photos were spread on Twitter. But now we have more insight thanks to an interview with the group's leader. And Vice spoke to the group's leader, and his thoughts are super interesting. First, what kind of research did they do to engage in this live action role playing of Americans in Ohio? Well, Bartosz Bruschi, and yes, that is his name, unwinds by heading to a trailer park outside Warsaw, where he directs a group of around 60 Polish people who pretend to be ordinary Americans, people from Ohio to be exact.
I just want to chime in and say it's a little strange he doesn't unwind over a few brewskis.
Enthusiasts turn a peaceful holiday resort in a Polish forest into an American trailer park with dozens of participants who stay in character with their assigned family, living at their assigned trailer home for 28 hours at a time. Let me just pause for a second and say, who has 28 hours to spare to like role play people from another country? Like,
no, it's more amazing than that. They write scripts. They had 700 pages of scripts They get together and they choreograph this. It is amazing what they do. And I like that it was like 28 hours. So random. Anyway, and they say where it came from. They were watching Stranger Things and X-Files, and they wanted to kind of recreate Stranger Things. But then as they went into it, they were trying to find a place that looked like America and needed to be a little bit more woodsy. And then they find this place and they're like, it's not quite right for Stranger Things. But it does look like it could be a good trailer park, like in the middle of Ohio. So they turned it into a trailer park, et cetera. And to me though, so I love this story.
I hate it.
It's super interesting. So we're apparently we'll debate that in a second. Yeah. But the fact that they put so much time and effort into it, I'm kind of amazed by it.
Yeah, it's awesome that they put so much time and effort into mocking Americans, and
but we deserve it.
Do we though? Do it like we're not all the same. It's a country of literally hundreds of millions of people, and like yeah, you're referencing one group of Americans in the middle of the country, and kind of making a generalization about Americans overall, and I don't like it. Like, we're fighting, like, we need solidarity internationally, right? Like, I get it. The criticisms and the critique of our systems makes all the sense in the world. But I don't look at these pictures and think to myself like, oh, this is great. I feel really great about this. No, I don't feel very great about it at all. Like,
I'll tell you why I liked it, Anna. Because they, so here, I'll read you a paragraph from the interview that they did with the leader of this group, that Vice did. He said, we grew up with he explained how he read a bunch of things about America.
I know. He read that America was so great, and it turns out that America is not so great. So let's mock them by doing this like LARP thing of Ohioans. And by the way, specific Ohioans in a trailer park, and make generalizations about Americans who, by the way, huge portion of Americans have been fighting tooth and nail against the people in positions of power who have screwed us time and time again.
But
right,
okay, let me read the paragraph and then say why I like it. He said, we grew up with a vision of the States as if it's the land of milk and honey. Then when you grow up and information is shared more, it turns out that it's not so nice in the States. We came up with the idea of this broken American dream, and this was the motif for the project.
Yeah, and for fun, we just mock them for 28 hours at a time.
No, but Anna, no, but look, the reason why it's important is because American media, most importantly in this case, the movies, did an amazing job of presenting a completely false version of America. So the rest of the world thinks, oh my God, America is so amazing, you guys got it made there. But what he explains later in the interview is, then when I read into it, I realized, oh my God, they don't even have healthcare. And sometimes they just let people die if they don't have health insurance. To people in Poland, that is so barbaric, it shocked their conscience. They're like, did you know that Americans, like the government will just let you die if you don't pay a ransom to private insurance? And then now they know more about guns and our gun culture, right? But he says that he did not know the scale of the massacres in America that were continual. And I think most of the world doesn't know about that. And if they knew about it, maybe it could help in some way.
I'm pretty sure we're the laughing stock of the international community, okay? Especially considering, we have a mass shooting in a school in Texas and we do nothing about it, but Canada decides to respond to it instead and pass gun control regulations in their country. Like, I'm pretty sure internationally we're a punching bag because of our elected officials, I guess we deserve it, right? But for me, it adds insult to injury to see these images of Americans being mocked when we're all freaking suffering under this oppressive, terrible, corrupt political system. That's the part that I don't like. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
everybody knows that I'm not super sympathetic to either of these individuals' commentary when it comes to politics, right? And I actually went into this cold. Gavin told me about this clip, but I didn't watch it because I wanted to react to it live on air. I actually find myself, I think that while I totally get it, and that I think America deserves mockery in general, I do think we deserve mockery in general, and have at it with our politicians, and have at it with our celebrity class, and have at it with anybody with real power in this country. They haven't shown a lot of the imagery in this clip of like how exactly it looks. So I'm trying to imagine, but I am really sympathetic to the oh yeah.
They're about to show some.
Yeah, they'll show some in a second. Okay, but what I am really sympathetic to right here, and I think that Anna really struck a chord with me. I actually appreciated what she said here was, look, I don't like the idea that people are going to like let's not take the most vulnerable Americans. Let's not take the people who are suffering. And we've talked about it so many times on our show. Like, we don't voter shame. We don't like people are fucking poor in this country. They don't have time to necessarily wade through the intricacies of everything. They know they've been fucked by everybody. So most poor people just stay home. And yeah, sometimes they go down the culture war rabbit hole that Gavin and I massively disagree with. But I don't like this idea of like making fun of those people, just because I think that if the left goes down that rabbit hole, it's going to be impossible for us to ever, really empathize with them. It sounds like I'm getting a weird echo, which I apologize for, guys. I'm sorry. I don't know what that's coming from. I try coming in and out. But
yeah, no problem. It does sound a little bit weird. I don't know what's exactly going on either. Do you want to try again?
Yeah, here, I'll just wrap this point up really quickly.
Sounds fine.
Okay, yeah. What I'm saying is that I think that one, it's a bad look for the left to not empathize with all people of poverty, and just, yes, you can, slander them for some of the disagreements that we have. But the idea is that these aren't the people that are really responsible for what's happening in America. They're not responsible for, even though the media will blame them for it. They're just victims of the mechanisms that of the system that got them there as well. And as much as we're like broad critical of the system as leftists, I think we have to incorporate that into our understanding of this. And that's why I do kind of feel where Anna's coming from on this, because my initial instinct is to be in Team Cenk and be like, yeah, fuck America. I'm embarrassed to be an American. If you've had the opportunity to travel abroad while Trump was president, you know that we are the laughing stock of the world, that people will mock you for it and all these things. And I don't really have a problem with that. If you have the affluence to travel across the globe, you're probably doing all right, at least getting by. And so that's all fine. But what I do, have a problem with and take a little bit of an issue with is when you come after specifically poor people, and poor people from anywhere, right? If this was like a, LARPing as like, poor people in, fucking Mexico, or, poor people in, Sierra Leone or anything like that, I think everybody would have a problem with it. And so obviously I don't think it's as deeply offensive as that. But I do think that it's kind of like, comedy from a bad place, in my opinion.
Interesting. Yeah, I have a bit of a difference of opinion there, and mostly just because I don't really think they're making fun or mocking people. And we'll look at the photos here in a second, so you can decide for yourself, Zach. But I don't really see this so much as mocking. I mean, by their own terminology, they're LARPing, so they're role playing. But when you're role playing or LARPing is something, that doesn't necessarily mean you're mocking it, right? And honestly, this whole conversation actually reminds me of one of my favorite filmmakers, Lars von Trier. Who's from Denmark, and a lot of his movies have to do with America, and specifically this film he made called Dogville, which came out in the early 2000s. It's one of the best films of the early 2000s, in my opinion. Highly recommend everyone watch it. But he got some criticism because Lars von Trier had actually himself never been to America. He'd never set foot in the United States, yet he was making all of these films as someone from Denmark about the United States of America. And I just wanted to quickly put up a quote on screen that he said to address this criticism. He said, "A big part of our lives has to do with America. In our country, it is overwhelming. I feel there could just as well be an American military presence in Denmark. We are a nation under a very bad influence because I think Bush is an asshole and doing a lot of really stupid things. America is sitting on the world, and therefore I'm making films about it. I say 60% of the things I've experienced in my life are American, so I am in fact an American, but I can't go there and vote. That is why I'm making films about America." And again, that's talking about his movie Dogville, which was very critical of America, and not just its politicians, but of American culture in general. And I think it's 100% accurate. Just because you don't live here, even if you've never visited here, American influence, culture, and obviously military presence is felt all around the world. It is a massive part of anyone's life. So I think it's completely fair game to make art about it, whether that's, your fucking weird LARPing or role playing, or whether it's making a film like Dogville, which directly attacks the hypocrisies at the heart of our, American dream and American friendliness, so to speak. So, I think it's all fair game, but maybe we should take a look at the photos themselves and, take in a little bit more of this debate. Huh?
Yeah. Totally down to take in more of it. And I do appreciate a lot of what Lars says here, and the fact that, like, I had a friend from, the Baltics one time, and he was like, American culture is the world's culture, essentially. But yeah, let's go ahead and finish playing out this clip really quickly, and then we can react to some more.
I don't know that they're mocking us.
Okay, let's look at the pictures that they posted themselves.
Okay.
So check out their Facebook page. That's where they posted these images. And I just don't like it. I don't. I'm sorry. Okay.
But tell me it isn't true. Okay.
That is not true
That
of
looks
most
better than
Americans.
real life. And in fact, they said they got critique from actual Americans and said, no, you guys look healthier, slimmer. It's way cleaner than it would normally be. There'd be a lot more garbage, etc. But Anna, is this not happening in the country? It definitely is. But no, I honestly think you have a skewed version of what the rest of the world sees. The rest of the world does not see the disaster of America. So now it's a little bit more.
Did you see the photos?
Yeah, I saw the photos.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of, look, so I see the people in the comment section that are making a great point. Like, how can Americans be bitter when, we do this to the world all the time. We mock the world and we make we make fun of them. And that was like all of American culture up until about 10 years ago, right? Was just mocking the rest of the world. Rah, rah, America's better than you. So of course we deserve a taste of our own medicine. Absolutely. And I'm not trying to pearl clutch or say these people don't have the right to do that. I'm just saying that in a way I wasn't expecting to. I am sympathetic to Anna's argument because I don't like the idea of just going out and role playing the lives of poor people for like your amusement. Like that is a real life that entails all kinds of, vastness that the rest of the human experience has and all these kind of things. And I don't want to undermine that. And I don't want to like play that up in a way that's like not serious. Not that they don't have the right to do it, but I just, from my own perspective, like these are people who do suffer, like living in a trailer and then like having the gag be like, oh, these people live around way more trash than you guys think. Like, oh, like, I don't know. I just think that to some extent, I am sympathetic to the fact that like, that might not be like the nicest thing to do. Not setting aside the fact that of course they have every right to do it. They can make fun of us all they want. I just think that, sometimes picking the right target and punching down is not always like I just would have, I don't know. That's somewhat of the vibe I get. And again, they have every right to do that. They can make fun of anybody we want. God knows America has earned the reputation of being the fucking like worst of the worst on the block. We make fun of everybody. We were, horrible after 9/11 to making fun of the entire Muslim community. Of course, we deserve all this kind of stuff. It's just, I don't know, man. I didn't think it was right then, and I don't necessarily think it's right now.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the argument, but again, when I see these photos, especially these ones, I think of like fucking Duck Dynasty, and that was, monetized massively on TV, a huge part of American culture for years and years and years. How is that not fair game to make fun of? You know what I'm saying?
Well, those were rich people LARPing as like people from the South. Those were millionaires that made Duck Dynasty, and they were basically LARPing.
Agreed. And that's the image that's projected to the rest of the world is what America is. So that's pretty fair game as far as satirization goes, at least in my opinion. But I definitely get the point. I think if it was more mean, if it was more vicious, if they were like showing people with like crack pipes, like passed out on the floor or something in a trailer, then I'd be like, all right, that's just being unnecessarily mean. But I don't even necessarily get like that much of like a mean spirit from this. This is literally just like, this actually does look like scenes that could be just taken in America, in fucking Missouri, in the Ozarks or something. I don't see like they're not wearing fucking clown hats or clown noses or anything. Like I don't see it as vicious mockery. I just kind of see it as like, oh, this is actually the reality in America, especially middle America, which we proudly broadcast to the rest of the world via, properties and, shows like Duck Dynasty and all sorts of shit like that. So I don't think it's, out of question to satirize it. And sure, maybe it's not in the best of taste, but since when does comedy have to be in the best of taste? I mean, you could say Borat is in poor taste. We would both agree that's a brilliant piece of comedy.
Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, the beauty of Borat was the fact that like they know who the fucking enemy is, right? Like Sacha Baron Cohen doesn't think that those people that are out at the fucking rodeo are the people that are like, I don't know. And not that these Polish people do either. I'm just trying to argue. I'm trying to say that, I don't necessarily love the idea of like making fun of poor people for their situation. And you know what, if that's not what these polls were trying to do, then you know what, fine. They have absolutely every right to dress up and fucking play however they want. I'm just saying from my like ethical line, like I'm not prepared to like dress up as poor people to live out their lives as if that's some kind of a game or a joke, regardless of where they come from, whether that's the deep South of America, whether that's like Oman, in the Middle East. Like I just wouldn't do that.
Another thing this honestly reminds me of is some of the backlash that Michael Moore received to his very first film ever, Roger and Me. And despite the fact that that film obviously is about Flint, Michigan, and it paints Flint, Michigan in a very sympathetic light, some people from Flint actually had a big problem with his portrayal of Flint, Michigan, because you'll remember a lot of points in that film, especially in the first half of it, he's showing just the utter poverty, the utter desperation of Flint. You remember there's characters that he puts in that movie, like the pets or meat guy, where it's like the guy selling, it's like, do you want meat or do you want a pet? Either one goes, from his little like shanty shack or whatever. And some people were like, well, you're essentially just like making fun of this guy, and you're doing it in order to make yourself rich and famous and to springboard your career into Hollywood based on the suffering of these people, even if it's under the guise of doing a good thing. And I totally disagree with that criticism too. I don't think Michael Moore was intending to just make fun of the pets or meat guy. I mean, despite the fact that it does come off in a little bit of a humorous way, I still think that's an important picture of or a part of the picture he was painting of the community that he was born and grew up in. So, I don't have a problem with that either. But again, it's a similar kind of debate. It reminds me of that.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that wins, I would say, gives credence to somebody like Michael Moore in that situation, from my perspective at least, and why I find it a little bit different, because I do think that Roger and Me is a masterpiece and one of the great documentaries to be made about America. Period. But that movie was about America, right? There was no question who the villain in that movie was. It was not that guy selling, and the whole broader point was about how the system that GM created resulted in that poor bastard having to sell meat and pets. And yes, that's a little bit of a like steer in your brain. And the other part of that I do think makes a difference is like, that was Michael Moore's life. Like, he grew up in Flint. That was his story to tell. Same way with like if somebody who had never lived what Harmony Korine lived and they made Gummo, I don't think it would be the same movie. And I think it would come across as a little bit more like judgmental, whereas like he lived it, he understood it, he made it. It was not a judgmental film. If it had been judgmental, I don't think it would have worked, right? That was like part of the beauty of the art, was capturing it without judgment. So again, I don't have any like malice towards these people in Poland. They have every right to do it. I'm just trying to work through my own emotional complexity about this, because I find myself in a weird fence-sitting position where I normally would not be when it comes to Cenk and Anna's show.
Yeah, to address a few super chats real quick, thank you so much, Max Roy, for the $4.99. Speak to truth, same old hate bashing new group. Thanks so much for the $4.99. Really appreciate that, Max Roy. Love that monkey on your profile
for a second, but then
I thought that's what it said too at first. Thank you so much, the Sinister Mister, for the $5. Satirize our politicians and legislators, not our suffering. Fair enough. I think we had one more too. Thank you so much, by the way, Sinister Mister. And thank you, Kevin, for the $5. I agree with you guys about Olayami being right about the trans debate, but my problem with her is she would 100% be on Cenk's side in this LARP debate. Well, I don't know about that, Kevin. I mean, I'm not like 100% familiar with all of Olayami's takes on everything. I have no idea where she would come down on this one. It would be interesting to, get her opinion though.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about the Vanguard is that we would love to chat with anybody that we disagree on, and like an opaque issue, like fucking, I don't know, I don't think this is going to stand in the way of us having, a lot of common ground with somebody like Olayemi, and even Gavin and I don't necessarily have 100% of the same reading on this. Like, he's definitely coming down more on Cenk's side. Like, that's perfectly okay. That's actually healthy. If you find yourself in lockstep with the people you're talking to every single time, like that would be a problem.
Zach's in lockstep with Karen Kasparian. No, I'm just kidding. But thanks, Kevin. Really appreciate that.
I also am going to start talking about how I hate the poors that litter my fucking site when I go to work. All these vicious poor people have to sleep outside because they don't want to use the proper fucking services afforded to them.
And thank you, by the way, Mike, for the $5. Gavin makes some great points, but I agree more with Zach. Well, what the fuck, Mike? What the hell is this? Just kidding. This isn't going to win anybody over who doesn't already hate America. Again, I might argue that that's not necessarily the point. I don't think the point is like, fuck America, look at all these losers. But I definitely see what you're saying anyway. And thank you so much for the $5, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I always appreciate somebody that agrees with me and not Gavin.
You're Zach's favorite commenter now, Mike. Anyway, let's move on. I do want to watch the rest of this because it does get even more explosive. I'm honestly surprised by how like intense this got.
It happening in the country? It definitely is. But no, I honestly think you have a skewed version of what the rest of the world sees. The rest of the world does not see the disaster of America. So now it's a little bit more obvious because of Trump and all the shootings, and even the rest of the world can see that. Oh, look, they hired Bozo the Clown to be their leader. Jesus, what is wrong with America? But even before Bush, No way. The entire world was like, oh my God, except for the people that we were every once in a while bombing or doing coups against. But even half of them we would trick with our propaganda. Thought America was amazing.
I know.
And then Iraq, we lose a little bit of steam, but not that much.
No, what are you talking? What are you basing this off of, Cenk? Okay, first time I traveled out of the country was in 2007. Okay, literally went to almost every European country during that trip. I was gone for a month, right? Hostility toward Americans was palpable. Okay, everyone hated us. Everyone hated our government. Everyone thought we were a laughingstock. It was just abundantly clear. I think you're actually living in a bubble because in America, we're not encouraged to learn about other countries. But other countries know about us, they learn about us, they know everything that's going on in America. So I get it. America, especially right now, has devolved. It sucks, doesn't take care of its citizens. People are drowning in medical debt. People are dying in mass shootings. It is a disaster. I will grant you that. Okay, I'm just not interested in their cutesy little project where they're like role-playing Americans who are suffering in this country.
If you look, I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, if you said to people,
let me do it then. Okay, why don't we do a little LARPing community of Polish people and see how they like it? Would they take kindly to that? I would guess no. I would guess no. I could be wrong though.
I don't think they're trying to hurt us, Anna. I think they're trying to highlight the things that are wrong in America.
Yeah,
and
we know.
So that they could maybe on the off chance that we'll see it and maybe we'll want to fix it.
We live it, we see it, and obviously we want to fix it.
But you know what?
But more importantly,
this is their
hobby. This is like a fun hobby that they're doing. Do you not understand my point?
I understand it, but
if we were to do it with any other country, they would rain terror on us. You know that.
You know why? Because we're the bullies and we're the ones that are strong, unfortunately. And we go and invade countries and bully people, etc. Right? And so if you said to people across the world, oh,
look, I do agree with Cenk there. That is why, like the people that they're targeting, like I get it, those people aren't responsible, and that's where my sympathy comes from. Like I get where Anna's emotion is coming from too, because obviously those people have a plight. Obviously those people live in fucked up conditions. They don't need some motherfucker in Poland to tell them what it's like to be broke as shit in West Virginia, working in a coal mine and not getting by, right? Like that is not a joke to these people. That is their fucking reality. They don't need these Polish fuckers to come out and make fun of them. But on the other hand, we do live in America and we have been the biggest fucking pieces of shit on earth for the last like 100 years. And unfortunately, that's going to rain shit down on us. And I think you just kind of have to open up your umbrella and say, like, you know what, Anna, like you're 100, like I agree. This is, let's not punch down on poor people. These poor people do have hard lives. Nobody's arguing that. But let's just let these Polish people just do whatever the fuck they want to, because they
also,
they
it's not like Poland is like a fucking utopia. Like, I feel like Anna's kind of acting like, oh, these people that come from this, absolutely perfect land where they have every right guaranteed and they're all, 100% well off. They're just, casting the stones at the weakest and poorest among us. Not necessarily. I think there's actually quite a bit of poverty in Poland. And actually they banned abortion before we did. I think it's technically still legal in cases of rape and incest. So obviously that's better than, here in Missouri, for example, but still, it's not like it's a perfect liberal utopia over in Poland. They have a lot of issues that they're working through as well. A big problem with far right, rising far right presence. And I know homophobia is also a huge problem in Poland. So it's not a utopia over there either.
Yeah, 100%. And look, it's like, from an ethical perspective, like, no, I don't believe in punching down at poor people anywhere, which is, I guess the bedrock of why I do agree with Anna in this one instance. But it's also like, I totally get where Cenk is coming from, that we bring this on ourselves with the way that we behave nationally. And the fact that, like, as you pointed out, Gavin, obviously American culture is so ingrained, and also what we do as a nation is so consequential to basically every other country. So I definitely.
What about something like South Park? Do you think that's punching down? Because South Park is basically saying, look at all these like dumb, stupid, bigoted Americans living in small town Colorado, fucking hick country, essentially. Now, technically, that show is made by Americans. It's not made by Polish people. But would you also consider that punching down?
It kind of goes back to the Michael Moore philosophy. One, those people are making a show about where they grew up. They're making a show about their lived actual experience, right? And I just think that makes it a little bit different. I think if I make a show about my own fucking community and what I lived and what I saw and where the fuck I'm from, like, yeah, that's different than somebody that's, never been there, never set foot in your life in West Virginia in their life, or, Mississippi or wherever. I just think that's a little different, right? Like, I think that if those Polish people want to make a fucking satire about Poland, that's different than if I sat out to satirize, whatever the fuck the Andrzej Duda or whatever the fuck their president is, who's like, kind of a piece of shit.
Fair enough, but I'm not going to deny that I laugh at the first 10 minutes of Borat when they're in Kazakhstan and they portray it as like a back in the fucking, you know what I'm saying, like when it's just a total comedic take on what it's actually like to live there, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, dude, that's fucked up that you bring that up, because it's a fucked up gag, dude. It is really it is fucked up that they make that scene, and also checkmate. Like, I laugh hysterically when that happens, but my brain is telling me it's wrong though. So
anyway, this debate is almost over. I think there's like 1 minute left, so let's quickly finish that up before we get out of here.
Well, poor America, don't make fun of them. Those guys are obviously suffering. That is not the impression people have. They think that we're the a-hole bullies that are super strong and live in a land of milk and honey, and we go around and smash their stuff every once in a while. They don't think we're poor. They don't think we're suffering. They think that we're the bad guys.
This whole project is to point to the fact that we're poor.
No, but that's why this is an interesting story, because it's for the first time somebody going, oh, look at these poor Americans. Every other time it's, oh, look at these oppressive, but strong, rich Americans that are oppressing everyone else. And I got news for the rest of the world. I think Anna says you already know it, maybe you do. But for the rest of you that don't know it, no, we're suffering here. They let us die for profits in almost every industry. They squeeze all the wages out of us and give it to the rich. So when you see those spectacular Hollywood movies, that isn't our lives. That's the lives of the elites in America. The overwhelming majority are suffering greatly. Those LARPers, unfortunately, are a much more accurate depiction of America than any movie you've seen. Thanks for watching The Young Turks. We really appreciate it. And
anyway, I thought that was an interesting debate. It's definitely a good conversation, and I can see where Anna's coming from. I'm not totally discounting or writing off what she was saying or what you were saying, Zach. I definitely understand that impulse and why she felt that way. And the only other thing I'll say is that Anna was like, when I was in Europe, everyone hated Americans and stuff. I would push back on that. I have been to Europe. That was not my experience. My sister lived in Europe for 3 years. And I remember one of the first things she told me, which really surprised me, was she was like, actually, Europeans still do really, and this was during the Trump years, by the way. She was like, Europeans think Americans are so cool. Like, they think America is the coolest shit ever. They want to come here. They think it's awesome how much geographical diversity we have. They're obsessed with like the national parks. When they do come here, they usually come to New York or like Miami or somewhere like that. They don't see places like West Virginia. And yeah, there is still a lot of just kind of like blind pro-America sentiment, even in parts of the world where, yeah, they do have more rights. They do have healthcare, stuff like that. And a large part of that is because our culture is so pervasive. Like, we never, except for the fact that we love movies and seek them out, but you're never going to go to the cinema and watch a fucking French movie or a Portuguese film. But if you're in Portugal or you're in France and you go to the cinema, you're going to see like 5 American films on the marquee. You're going to turn on the radio in a taxi cab in fucking Spain or something. You're going to hear pop music from America on the radio. So they're conditioned their whole lives to hear, oh, well, all of these cultural exports coming from America are so dope. And all of this stuff we see in the movies about the Old West and how cool America is, and New York City and Los Angeles, Hollywood, all of these things. Yeah, it really does create this picture of what America is. And yeah, people don't usually look at Ohio or West Virginia or Missouri, where Zach and I live. And you are going to see a very, very different picture painted in those areas.
Yeah, I've never set foot in Europe. All my international travels, not extensive enough to really collect data on. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing that occurs. And the way that they over time have tried to position America as like a us against them, like, oh, the rest of the world hates us, they hate our freedom type of deal, and juxtapose that with like the limited experiences that I've had where, like, yeah, maybe some people were like, why did you guys vote for Donald Trump? But after you get past that, it's like, oh yeah, we love everything that you guys like, and it all comes from your fucking country, and like, oh, actually, we don't care about any of that other shit. Just please stop bombing our fucking country or whatever it is. Like, you know what I mean? So anyway, great fucking show today though, and I do think that it was a really worthwhile exchange to have. talk about some of our agreements, our disagreements. It was a great clip. Thanks for pulling it, Gavin.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And honestly, back in the day when I was a bigger fan of TYT, this is the kind of stuff I really liked when they would get into these passionate debates. And back in the day when like Jimmy Dore was on TYT, back when I agreed a lot more with what Jimmy Dore had to say, they would get in lively exchanges like this a lot more. And that's why I like the program. It seems like over time it's become just kind of gentrified in a sense. Like all of the personality that once defined the Young Turks has kind of just been replaced by this bland attempt to be corporate news. So I like to see them, get in these kind of discussions, get passionate. Again, that's what used to make the show great before that corporate money came in and kind of, like I said, just gentrified it. That's my, reading of the situation at least.
100%. Really quickly, I know we have one more super chat before we get out of here, but I did just want to say to Rub's troll, I am scared of going to quote unquote America to see the bloody national parks, break my arm and go bankrupt. LOL, you should be able to most likely flee back to your country and fucking obfuscate and default on any of that debt here in America if you do. But as somebody who just came back from a national park and talk a lot with Gavin about national parks, it is probably one of the best parts of America.
Undeniably. And yeah, we do have a few super chats. Thank you, Katrina, again for the $5. Really appreciate that, Katrina. Just read about how the U.S. is trying to influence who is in the Polish government. So I don't know. I don't love the trailer park trope either. Yeah, I mean, I'm not particularly surprised about that. It seems like the U.S. is probably trying to influence just about every government that they can. But yeah, the Poles definitely have their problems too. And I can definitely see where you're coming from, Katrina. I can definitely see where Anna was coming from as well. Thanks for the $5.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it thinks you said maybe they're saying the U.S. empire should force on helping their own instead of going to other countries. And I also would agree with you there, Katrina. Yeah, it was just a follow-up second half to this other one. She says, where is it? Oh, maybe they're saying the U.S. empire should focus on helping their own instead of going to other countries, which is a sentiment that I think you and I both really agree with.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Sean DeStefano, for the $4.99. Really appreciate that, Sean. They make America look kind of cringe, but they do highlight the inequalities of our system. You guys are the best. Thanks so much, Sean. Really appreciate that. And yeah, I would say that, sure, they make it look kind of cringe, but no cringier than anything you're going to see when you turn on reality television. Again, I brought up Duck Dynasty earlier, but think about all these goddamn reality shows. Remember Honey Boo Boo? Remember fucking My 600-Pound Life? All of these shows make America look absolutely terrible. It's not just the polls that are doing it. It's a whole industry here in and of itself that's honestly far more exploitative, especially with reality TV, than whatever the hell these polls were up to. But thanks, Sean. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Sean.
There's another one from Katrina. Yeah, that's what you were saying. Shout out to you, Katrina. Thanks so much for the super chats. Maybe they're saying the U.S. empire should focus on helping their own instead of going to other countries. Yeah, that's also a good point they may have been making. And like, you talk about bringing democracy and liberation to all these other, countries. How about liberating the goddamn people of Ohio that are, poor as fuck and out here being assaulted and abused and imprisoned by, police officers and state-sponsored violence. So that's also a good point. Thank you very much, Katrina.
Yeah, thank you. And that would make a more salient point to somebody like me, obviously.
Absolutely. One more. Thank you so much from Kim. Kim NZG. Really appreciate that for the $5. Is that New Zealand currency or something? That's dope. Appreciate you from watching from New Zealand, if that's in fact where you are. The U.S. has traveled quite extensively. Love from the show from New Zealand.
Gavin staying sharp the whole podcast. Where are these people? Where are these Polish LARPers from? I think they're in Sweden.
Anyway, the U.S. has traveled quite extensively throughout the country. The gun violence make me think twice about visiting again. Love the show from New Zealand. Yeah, I can't freaking blame you, Kim. Honestly, I can't blame you. I mean, can you imagine what it'll be like to be in Europe every day? You're seeing these articles about America. You're like, the fuck is going on?
Yeah, dude, all the 4th of July weekend, only 60 people were fucking massacred. It was a W, right? Freedom rang. Yeah, 100%. If you made it through the flight from I would love to go to New Zealand and Australia. I think Gavin would too, but we're little bitches, and I salute you for making it through that flight. That has to be like, if you did it direct, that would be like a 23-hour flight. You probably did like an 18-hour chunk and then a 6-hour chunk or something. Godspeed. I've flown, I hate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Same here. Can't do those long flights, but really appreciate you, Kim, for watching from New Zealand. That's so dope. That's so freaking dope. Glad we have a New Zealand listener, a Kiwi. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in today. I thought it was a great show. Really glad to be back in the saddle. Make sure to hit that like button if you haven't already. That would really help us out. And if you're interested in helping us out, if you enjoy the show that we put on, feel free to hit up the link in the description to join our patron community. We do like to start and end all of our shows with a big shout out to the patrons, because you guys make what we do possible. As I always say, we would not be able to do this show or make this content without you guys and your support. So sincerely, thank you so much for helping us out. And again, if you're interested in joining the patron community, getting a spot of your own on the shout out screen, then do consider hitting up the link in the description. Again, that's patreon.com/the Vanguard channel. It's always going to be found in the description of all of our content. So hit that up. If you're not able to, of course, that's fine. We totally understand. Please just hit that like button. It's 100% free. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell while you're at it so you don't miss our next live stream. But I guess with all that said, Zach, unless you have anything else to say, I guess we're out of here.
Yeah, I guess we're peacing out, guys. Great show. Appreciate everybody that commented along and chatted. We'll likely be back tomorrow. Peace out.